Hey everybody, Josh for Android Central here. Hope everyone that could make it out to New York last night had a good time at the Android Central Reader Meetup. What I've got right here is the Pantech Crossover coming out June 5th on AT&T. It's Pantech's first foray into the Android phone market. And I'm just going to do a quick hands-on with y'all to show you what we got, and then a longer review will come later. Before I boot the device up, we're just going to go over some quick hardware specs. We've got a 3.1 inch screen running at 320 by 480. We've got two capacitive buttons at the bottom and also two physical hardware buttons. Moving up to the top bezel, we have our 3.5mm headphone jack, and kind of on the angle of the bezels we have a function button and a power button. More on the function button later. Moving over to this bezel, we have our micro USB port and a dedicated camera button, which is always nice. The bottom bezel doesn't have anything, and on the last bezel we have our volume rocker. It's also a slider. It's got a physical keyboard, 4 rows. Buttons are kind of flat, kind of remind me of the original Droid, but more on that later. Flipping over to the back, we've got a 3-megapixel shooter, no flash. We do have a speaker, and inside of this we've got a 1500 milliamp hour battery, which is pretty good because the phone's only running a processor at 600 megahertz, so I'm expecting the battery to last a pretty good amount of time with that. We've also got a micro SD port, 2GB card comes included, but it does support up to 32 gigabytes, and my SIM card slot, which as you can see doesn't have a SIM in it yet. So let's just get this thing closed up and I'll boot it up and I'll take you through some of the software. Alright, we got the phone all booted up now. I want to show you guys something, which is why I turned the screen off. Pantech has sort of heavily skinned the phone, which isn't necessarily a bad thing, but I wanted you to see this lock screen, which is actually a peeled sticker. That's how we get to the phone. Kind of cool. I'll show you some more of their adjustments to stock Android as we go through this. 5 home screens, pretty standard. You'll notice that they've got widgets and icons already populating what's going on. But no lag in the home screen scrolling from screen to screen, which is really great. Notice that if you have a live wallpaper, you're definitely going to see some performance issues. So with a 600 megahertz processor, I would suggest just keeping a static picture. You'll see that they've skinned a lot of icons pretty heavily, context, email, camera, things like that. Once we go into the app drawer, you'll see a lot more of that. Down here we've got phone messaging, browser, and the arrow to get us into the app drawer. You can't change these icons as far as I can tell, which is a little bit disappointing. You can long press on them, no option to change them. You can try and drag something else and you'll just get the trash can to take that off of your home screen. So I would have preferred to customize that a little bit more, but I'll show you why the function button kind of alleviates that issue. Going into the app drawer, we see a lot of the AT&T sanctioned apps that they have on their phones. AT&T Navigator, AT&T Code Scanner, Family Map, Mark the Spot. Down here I think we've got a Live TV and a My AT&T app. So lots of AT&T apps that are pre-installed, so hopefully you enjoy that sort of thing. You'll see that also a lot of icons, clock tools, compass, have been skinned, a converter which doesn't even come normally, data manager is pretty cool. So it's just a little thing here and there, you know, they've tried to differentiate themselves. RSS reader stocks, a couple of other things that don't normally come. A little curious thing going on here at the end, I installed some apps of my own and it just kind of completely ignores keeping them in alphabetical order at this point. And so we've got, you know, BattleNet, Abduction, then Shoot Me, some S's, a T, an M, Chrome, and then Barnacle, Uninstaller, Voice, but in between them are Digital Clock and Clocker and Elixirs at the end. So it looks like it just kind of puts them in your app drawer as they're installed. I'll research and see if there's a way to get them back in alphabetical order, but right now that's how it came out. Go into the notification drop down, you see that they've got some highly used things, Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, GPS, and alarm, which is neat. Kind of took an idea from Galaxy S and CM7 and anything else that runs that, which I have no problem with. I think it's a great idea. I think those are things that are used rather often, and you know, there's no reason to not have it. We've also got some included Pantech widgets here. Bookmark, calendar, clock, contacts, email, event notification, music. There's actually a pretty good number of them that Pantech created just for their phone. One of the interesting ones is SocialNet, which lets you, have your Facebook, Twitter, feeds, kind of like HTC Sense has on your friend stream, go into this function button and how it alleviates the issues of not being able to change these shortcuts down here. You hit your function button and you are brought to a list of apps that are, it's kind of like your shortcut button, things that you think you might use a lot that you might not necessarily want to keep on one of these home screens. They're just right here, and it's really easy to add and delete. You know, so I don't want that. I don't use AT&T Navigator, but say I really want to keep my BattleNet account secure, and there we go. So that's a pretty neat little thing. Unfortunately, hitting function again doesn't take you out of it. You have to hit back to get out, but not a big deal. We are running 2.2.1, which I would normally be kind of in a fit about, and I do think it's a bit ridiculous that we're not shipping everything with Gingerbread. But the performance of this phone isn't so bad that, you know, I'm going to get up in arms about it. I think they've skinned it really well, and I think that it's running pretty smoothly in this hands-on. You don't get a lot of onboard storage, unfortunately. You get 512 megs standard, and just with what the system's using and my apps installed, we're down to 424 already. So could have asked for a little bit more storage, but it does support up to 32 gigabyte micro SD, so that is one way to get through it. And otherwise, I mean, there's no single app that is so compelling I feel like I need to show it, just that there's a lot of AT&T stuff, and I'm sure anybody with an AT&T phone knows what I'm talking about. So that is the Pantech Crossover in a nutshell, brief hands-on, and the review will be up in a week or two.